Hello! Thank you very much for being a part of this. My name is Fable Narrative, and let's get right into this. CBR.com, November 6, 2019. Avatar, The Last Airbender head writer accused of misogynistic behavior. Now, I have already covered this in a prior video, and just to sum it up, I don't care about when somebody unironically uses the word misogyny. I don't, and if you want to go through this, you absolutely can. I will have a link down below. But I don't. I've been called racist before because I had a direct conversation with a black man, a young black man, about 4 or 5 years younger than I, on Facebook. He called me racist because I don't care about the racism that's happening in society. I don't recognize it because I don't think it's there, but therefore I'm a racist. So anytime that there's a misogyny or hey, you're patriarchy or ooh, rape, no, I don't care anymore. Now, this is as political as I will get. This was derailed from when I was actually covering a very simple argument, or a very simple article of Avatar on Screen Rant, why so many Last Airbender fans hate Korra, and I was simply looking up Aaron's name, the head writer in The Last Airbender, and this was the first article that came up of him being a misogynist. Now, he might be a dickhead. That may be a possibility. I accept he's a dickhead. He might have actually stuck 2 fingers up your poop chute. I don't know the situation, but I do shut off emotionally, spiritually, physically, and auditorially of any person who uses the term misogyny unironically, because it's patriarchy, etc. It's just nonsense to me. So I apologize, that's as political as I will get, but let's move on to the actual article that I do care about. Screen Rant, Avatar, why so many Last Airbender fans hate Korra. Now, we probably did get into the first 3 paragraphs, if we want to include this first sentence. So we'll just go ahead and start from the very beginning, and then it'll be streamlined all the way until what we cover. While Avatar, The Last Airbender is universally beloved, The Legend of Korra is a more controversial show, often receiving hate from Avatar fans, by Rick Stevenson 2 days ago. The Legend of Korra is an incredibly divisive show for Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. That's been a fact since the first season of Korra premiering in 2012. And one that's likely to be made imminently clear again with its release on Netflix, which I agree. People, because of being on Nickelodeon and because of the audience and stuff, some shows don't really get a good leg up whenever they're trying to be successful because of the audience or even the time. I might be saying a bunch of words. I'm trying to formulate my thoughts here, but a great example. Megamind versus Despicable Me. Despicable Me has now a trilogy, and I think a trilogy, if not the first one, the second one, and a Minions movie, but also Minions has become incredibly mainstream and popular, while Megamind failed at the box office, but is actually a better movie than Despicable Me 1. There's some great things and family-oriented themes in the first one, but Megamind as an overall movie, I think it did pretty good. I think overall it was better. There's actually deeper meanings and themes if you actually break it down a bit more. For example, why was there a school right next to a prison? And there was a reviewer, somebody who was critiquing the movie, and pointed out, well, wait a second, they put a school right next to the prison because they wanted to make one the hero and one the villain, because if the Superman became a villain, they couldn't stop him. That was kind of interesting of a concept. It's oh, that's actually kind of true. Well, they steal the moon and there's no consequences for it in the Despicable Me. It's just ha ha ha, family fun, ha ha ha. But Megamind, there's actually more serious things that are actually happening that's more, I believe, well written. That's just for an example, that one can do really well at the box office for whatever reason it is, and the other one can do horribly, and one continues and one doesn't, even though one might be better than the other. So, Avatar Korra being released on Netflix, we'll see what the outcome is. It might be great, and it actually might be worse, because Korra will become so mainstream that we actually get to see what the popularity of it might have people come out and say, oh my gosh, Korra's amazing because she's gay. And that's so shitty of an argument. I apologize. That's shitty of an argument. That's like saying, hey, I love Trump because he's straight. It's what? That's stupid. And I'd agree with you. Oh man. So with Avatar's popularity at what seemed like an all-time high since its own return to the streaming platform in May 2020, and many fans ready to watch the sequel series for the first time, or the first time in years, the debate looms once again. But why do so many Avatar fans hate The Legend of Korra? Well, the answer is complicated and multifaceted. The original series is one of the most universally praised TV shows of all time, animated or otherwise. One thing that I gave an example is that it was a show that you could watch with your children, and then when your children grow up, your children can watch it with their children. It's one of those foundational shows that I would attribute to also Shrek 1 and 2, Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2. Those are just two examples, four specific movies that you can watch with your children, and when your children grow up, you can watch it with their children. Because it's like Harry Potter. There's many things wrong with Harry Potter. For example, Quidditch is a nonsensical sport. I know what they try to do, but it's a nonsensical sport. All you have to do is catch the snitch. There's no reason to have done any other type of done any of the other battles, really. But that's just more of my own critique. But for example, Quidditch becomes a non-consequential activity. It goes into the background, right? There's no need for it, essentially. And Ron, from the book to the movies, the director took the lines Ron had to make him a very strong family, a strong friend, a strong character, a strong wizard, and gave them all to Hermione. Yeah, they fucked over Ron, and that's a big issue. It's not that that's a big issue. So, yeah, I could go on and on about that. But again, Harry Potter from start to finish, all 8 movies, is still a really great foundational film that you could watch with your children. From the first film, it's just kind of campy, and then you start to realize that it gets more and more serious until at the very end. And then it's a movie that you can watch with your children or give to your children, so on and so forth. It's a movie that's great, riddled with flaws maybe, but still foundationally sound. Despite being led by the same duo, Brian and Michael, I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce your last names, but Brian and Michael, the same composer in Jeremy Zuckerman, and many of the same writers and directors, the second show tries for very different things, leaving the look and feel of Avatar: The Last Airbender over a notably altered structure and tone. One big issue, going back to this article, is that Aaron was the head writer in The Last Airbender, which is one of the main reasons why the show actually did pretty freaking awesome. But I have no idea what's happening with Aaron in his real life, but Aaron was a key part to making it good. Doesn't make him a good person, it's just him as a professional, he did well. That's the whole point as to why I like Aaron, only because of his professional ability to make good writing. That's the only reason. I don't know anything about him, nor do I defend him. He's a man, he has issues, we all have issues, and we'll see what happens with that. But that's it, let's move on. The second show, But I think that's one of the main issues as to why the show went in its direction, because they didn't have the same writer who had the ability to make the writing, to produce what they produced in the first series. That they did their own thing because it's written by a different person. A great example from this is in Disney Trilogy. The Force Awakens was pretty much the same movie as The Last Hope, etc. It was sort of like a carbon copy, but they just did more of that thing. There's more troops, there's more planet destruction, etc., etc. But that was, I think, done by J.J. Abrams. And then in the 8th film, The Last Jedi, whatever the round-faced man, Rian Johnson, he made the film, and he fucked over a lot of the canon. He made some really bad choices. He did some really stupid stuff. And then they brought back in J.J. Abrams to fix it, and they didn't have any structure, rhyme, or reason for the entire trilogy. It's a mess. They didn't have the same person to continue writing it, even though J.J. Abrams is really good at making flash, bang, boom, sounds, zip, zang. There's a lot of things that he does well. Pretty much, he is a good director, a good producer of film when it comes to Mission Impossible films. Mission Impossible films have maybe little plot, and everything else is just flash and bang and boom and then action here, action there. And you can do that, but with Disney, they didn't have a direction with where they were going, and they brought in a new producer each and every single time, so there was a different feel of the movie and different direction that the entire show went, which is the exact same thing that happened here with Avatar: The Last Airbender compared to Avatar: The Last Korra, The Legend of Korra. Okay. These differences are the main points of contention for fans, and there are a few key ones that often draw particular ire from The Legend of Korra's story and characters to how it changes that viewers know about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Here's why many fans have a problem with the sequel show. The Legend of Korra has no single overarching story, and without even reading anything else, I agree. In every single season, there's a bad guy of the week. Now, not bad guy of the week of like every single episode there's a bad guy. Every season, there's an overarching villain. In the first series, not the first season of Avatar Korra, but the first series with Avatar: The Last Airbender, every single season there was a build-up to the very last villain, the very last boss, Ozai. And it had a very rewarding payoff. It did. Everyone was happy. There was lots of struggle all the way up to that, but everyone's happy. You beat the villain. You beat the villain in a very Avatar way that had some kind of continuity with the story with how Avatar Aang would have done it. But in Avatar Korra, every single season was jam-packed with 4 seasons worth of content that, because of how quickly they go through the entire plot, you don't have enough time to breathe. You don't have enough time to think about, well, what about this? Why is that happening? It just, boom, happens. Oh, whew! Oh my gosh, that looked amazing. Next story, next passage, next thing. And the moment that we actually start to breathe was maybe at the beginning of season 4. That's when we kind of start to breathe a bit. But even then, there start more action, more things that are happening. There's too many things happening with The Legend of Korra that what would have worked phenomenally is they could have had the exact same amount of stories, the exact same amount of villains that Avatar Korra could have gone through, but instead stretch it out a bit. Make the first season the first 2 or 3 seasons. Maybe you can have him as a repeating villain, and the repeating villain becomes a hero or a helping aid in maybe season 3, and then, sacrifices himself for the greater good or something because he realizes the errors of his way or something. It's just that it start to finish, it's too rushed. Too many things are happening. This is one of the most common complaints about The Legend of Korra from Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. The first show was praised for its epic, sweeping story that spanned over all 3 seasons, wrapping up nearly every plot and character arc beautifully and satisfyingly by the finale. A great example is you can have a villain of the episode. For example, when I think it's in season 2? No, not season 2, season 3. Season 3 of Avatar: The Last Airbender is when Katara pretends to be the river spirit and heals everybody, and then they start cleaning the lake, etc., and then they have to take care of the firebender marshals or military people that are there, and then they scare them out of town. You can have an episode dedicated to a villain or a conflict. But then after that, they're still on their way to something greater. They're on their way to something bigger. And then at the very end of the season finale, you can have it where the plot that they were trying to go towards has been derailed and they have to find a new way. So it's just that The Legend of Korra, it's just from start to finish. Okay, now here's a new segment. Okay, well what happened with these characters? Well, with the characters they've come along, let's go on a new adventure. We're still going towards one. We're still on the same one, right? No? Okay. Wrapping up an insanely beautiful arc. Okay. The story of Avatar is singular. Aang must defeat the Fire Lord, and by the end of the series, he's done it. There's a beautiful sense of scale and closure in that singularity that Korra admittedly lacks, opting instead to focus on seasonal plotlines, each with a different villain and theme. Agreed. Absolutely agree. There are a couple of reasons for this. Most notably, The Legend of Korra was commissioned by Nickelodeon season by season. I agree. But one thing that you could have done, like Firefly. Firefly is not really a well-known series. I highly recommend going at least watching the first episode. I was so skeptical about it. I heard people like loving it and being so annoyed that people were loving it. There was actually a common theme with people who loved Fireflies, that people would say, "Oh my gosh, Firefly is amazing." It's like, shut up. I've heard you. Like, I want you to watch it. It's amazing. It's like, no, I heard you the first 3, 4, 500 times. I know you love it. It's annoying that you keep saying it. And then when I watched it, I started being the same way. Firefly is not this grand adventure. It feels so real. Again, just like it's better than Harry Potter, but not by much. I'm not saying that Harry Potter is so amazing. It's just that Harry Potter is pretty good, but then Firefly does it very well. There's not a CGI. It's minimal, if any. It's an older show, but it's cowboys in space. It's the West in space. That's it. It's a very simple concept, focusing on a few main characters, and that's it. And they just keep on moving. I'm glad they stopped where they stopped, because it looked like there was not really a plot that they could have expanded upon. But the show was canceled, and there's no season 2 or 3, and it was left up to the fans, and they kept wanting more. Rather than The Legend of Korra, they did it from start to finish rather than leaving off on a cliffhanger, and they could have done something greater with that. It's just, well, we gotta make this one story. They just jam-packed it because they were commissioned season by season. I understand why they did it. I just think it was the wrong action. Meaning that the writers had to make the end of each season a potential ending to the show as well. But the issue is that you don't have to make it a potential ending. You could have it where maybe it sums up, but there's something that expands beyond that. Maybe some of the things are not left off. Because if people actually keep pressuring Nickelodeon by like, we need to know what happens next, Nickelodeon would have to commission another season. That's how you are successful with writing. You become necessary. It's job security. When you are a writer, write a book. Leave it off a little bit of a cliffhanger. And when people keep demanding it, you write again, with a little bit of a cliffhanger. Everything from the first book has been summed up if maybe one thing is missing, but it has been kept playing with the second book and with the third book. Again, it's the same thing that why George R.R. Martin is so successful, even though he may never complete the final book. Is that he was so successful in leaving, where's it going to be leading? Where is it going to be leading? Where is it going to be leading? So. The exception to this, of course, is seasons 3 and 4, which were ordered together and therefore have a more cohesive arc between them. The importance of the Meadow Clan, the focus of Earth Kingdom politics, etc. Earth Kingdom politics. Yeah. Okay. The other main thing keeping The Legend of Korra's arcs seasonal is the show's focus on political and social ideologies as the foundations for many of its storylines. Each season and villain is meant to represent a specific response to the world's growing modernism. Okay. Amon's devotion to equality between benders and non-benders. Unalak, I think he was the politician in Desire for Spiritual Renaissance. Unalak. Zahir is the third season, second season, Unalak. No, I'm thinking first season. Man, I am so drawing a blank of who the second villain was. I am so drawing a blank. I know it's Unalak, but who was Unalak? I'm trying to picture his face. Man, it's gonna bother me. Give me one moment to figure that out. Okay, I was sort of correct. Unalak is a waterbender, or from the Water Tribe, and that's why I had some confusion there. From the politician who was from the Water Tribe, in the first season of Avatar: The Legend of Korra. So I was confused on that, but I was rightfully confused because they look so similar. I'm looking at them on my phone right now. He's really similar, but he's this spirit guy. I thought, okay. Well, wait a second. Wasn't it that Zahir was the second season villain and Unalak was the third season? I want to say that's correct. Unalak was a waterbending master, the chief of the northern and southern water tribes, a former member of the Red Lotus. Yes, a former member of the Red Lotus, and the first and only dark avatar. What? Oh yeah, because of the way they did that was absolutely stupid. Now, I give them props for thinking outside the box, and it actually kind of has some continuity, but I disagree with that. So Unalaq is one of the two main antagonists along Vaatu of Book 2. I thought it changed the legend. Yeah. Spirit's a posthumous antagonist in Book 3, change in the Legend of Korra. Oh, okay. No, that's right. Okay, man, okay. Okay, I remember that now. Woo! Oh, man, I'm going to be so looking forward to seeing The Legend of Korra, even though I may disagree with the show. It's because I want to get my facts in order, facts straight with that. Oh, man, I forgot about that. I thought it was in the Season 3, but in Season 2, Red Lotus, but it's actually Season 3, it seems like that's when the Red Lotus actually happened. So, the other main thing keeping the Legend of Korra's arc seasonal, focus on the political show and modernism, Amon's devotional Zahir's mission to create a world free from tyrants, and Kuvira's Zahir was a phenomenal villain. He was a phenomenal villain. I think his character was well intact. I think everything they did about that character was great, and him being able to do the thing that he's able to do without giving any spoilers, that's the grand thing that Zahir actually develops and evolves into. That is phenomenal. Okay, I may disagree with how they did it, but I think the way that they did it is acceptable. It's good. It's really good. It's solid. So, and again, I'm trying not to do spoilers with this here, but it's the moment that he's able to, the moment he loses that special someone, if anybody remembers what that is. And Kuvira's emphasis on security and order, which again, Kuvira, Zahir, great villains. Unalaq, a great villain. Amon, probably one of the better villains in the entire thing. But the issue is that they just crammed so many villains into it. What if there was an overarching villain that shadowed all of them, and they all came together at the end? Or it's just there was no structure of the show, and I wish that there was. Of course, each of these characters misses their mark in one way or another. Well, I disagree with that, but they mainly hit their goals. I might disagree with the story with Unalaq and the spirit that's inside of the Avatar, and Unalaq, who he joins in on, that dark spirit, the light spirit, the dark spirit, that battle. But I think Unalaq as a character, Zahir as a character, Amon as a character, Kuvira as a character, does it well. Of course, each of these characters misses their mark on one way or another. While this unique structure leads to some great stories throughout Korra, it also makes the show's conclusion far less grand and climactic than Avatar's. And the flow between seasons feels more stiff. No, actually it doesn't. It actually has the opposite effect. It has where there's too many things. There's no flow. It's like it's rush. It's like the Avatar: The Last Airbender has a flow. And sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but there's always a flow. There's always a flow from one episode to the next where it's bobbing and weaving. It's like the ocean and the tide. It just comes in, goes out. It goes in, it goes out. With Avatar Korra, the entire series feels like there's just water rushing and pounding on a boulder in the middle of a lake. Or in the middle of a river, a downhill river. It's just... There's just so many things that are happening. So... The Legend of Korra characters aren't as likable. Agreed. They're not as... Yeah, I can agree with that one. The cast, but as to why, we'll get into that in a second. Bolin, he's kind of like a fuckboy. I know that... I might get so... I'm kind of blanking on the name right now. I'm a little bit tired, but that's no excuse. The guy who wears the scarf. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that. Where it's like, it's this guy. I don't care. He's so forgettable. Everybody in the team who ever dated him, he's such a forgettable character. He's the biggest fuckboy. Fuck him and get out of here. Yeah, it's just... they're too caricaturely. They're too much of a caricature. They're too much of a... Not stereotype. Hopefully caricature is actually what sums it up best. The cast of Avatar: The Last Airbender is a collection of fully formed, lovable, often hilarious characters, and the chemistry between them is exceptional in both their writing and performances. Here's a great example. When Avatar The Last Airbender brought on Toph in the second season. Toph ran away from home. She lied about her parents, saying like, "Yeah, we could go explore the world and stuff because my parents love me that much." And then realizing that no, I just ran away from home and I actually regret doing that. I probably left them sad and terrified about what happened to me, and that was actually addressed. And that's one thing that they actually do really well. That it's everything. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. And in Avatar Korra, things kind of happen in a vacuum. Like, oh, something happens. Like Avatar Korra kicks in the door of the enemy base, where Bolin is being captive, and could have been killed if anything. But she just pounds it in. Nothing's wrong. Everything just goes right. Like, what? No, you don't do that. You stealthily go in. Avatar: The Last Airbender even had Korra, Katara, and Zuko trying to find the man in the Fire Nation who killed Katara's mother. They went on a stealth mission for the entire episode, and it was badass. Avatar Korra kicks in a door. I'm amazing! Nope. Actually, it pulls back from your amazingness. Following up the original team, Avatar is a challenging task in itself. It is a challenging task, but yet it can be done. And for an example, let's give many more examples. Bolin. Actually, one thing that they did well is Bolin and his brother, whoever wears the scarf, I don't care about his name. How dare you? How dare? Wait, how does that woman, that little girl do it? Who went to the European Union and said, "How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?" I'm trying. How dare you? There we go. How dare you? How dare you? Love it. Because his father. Because one is an earthbender, Bolin, and the other one is a firebender, assuming that both the mother and the father is a firebender and an earthbender, which it seems as though there's some other evidence as to why genetics plays an important role as to whether or not certain culture of like you were born of an airbender, therefore you must practice air culture. It's kind of racist. But in the same sense, it's beautiful in the way that in the show, and I'm actually glad that they actually broke through that a little bit on the season 3. Oh, that's more personal preference anyways. Ooh, excuse me, I apologize. I don't like to burp on while recording, but I did it anyways. Well, what happens is that, spoiler warning, is that Bolin, during a fight with one of the Red Lotus members, is a magma or lava bender. Well, what happens with Bolin is while fighting the magma bender or lava bender, he discovers he can lava bend, and he's like, "Oh yeah, woohoo!" But it's sort of an issue. It's sort of an issue for me, but it's not at the same time. If anything, he's able to do it because of the genetics that has happened. That's probably the only way, because, and it's a situation that I accept it happening. Like mother and father, earthbender and firebender create a magma bender or lava bender. Pretty freaking awesome. It's the same thing with My Hero Academia, where one quirk is a powerful quirk and another quirk is a powerful quirk, and they try to do some marriage to create even more stronger quirks. It's something that happens in the show, and it's not a good thing because it's one of the reasons with Todoroki! He's half and half. He's half hot, half cold, because of the parents' marriage together. And producing children to try to find a replacement for All Might. It's really messed up the story, but it's absolutely beautiful when they actually discover it, which is something that they could have actually discovered in this show if bending was actually genetic and you couldn't be an earth an earthbender, like the twins in season 1 or 2. No, 1. In season 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's twin brothers who are trying to help Avatar Aang stop a volcano from burning the town down, and one is an earthbender and the other one is not, and they're just okay with it. Like one's an earthbender and the other one's okay with is okay with it. So I think everybody was okay with non-bending connected with bending people. So that's one of the reasons why Amon's equalists group doesn't work for me because the development of technology equalizes people to the nth degree. Because technology has advanced so quickly, people complaining about, oh my gosh, I've been oppressed by you. Yeah, but you can have it. If you firebending, a firebender can firebend. If you want to firebend as a non-bender, what do? Flamethrower. You can have flamethrowers now because in this world, technology has advanced so much that you can actually do what a firebender can do. Not to that degree, but again, it's developing some equality there. If technology hasn't developed so great, Amon's story would have been so much better. Amon's story would have been so much better. I still think Amon was one of the better ones, if not the best villain. Or Kavira was solid, but I still like Amon a lot better. From the show's beginning, let's keep reading this one. Following the original team, Avatar is a challenging task in of itself. And for many Avatar fans, the Legend of Korra's characters just don't stack up. From the show's beginning, the Legend of Korra tried to slot its new crew into the same roles as Avatars, which drew some unflattering comparisons. Again, when you're trying to make a carbon copy, which Family Guy tried to do the exact same thing that The Simpsons did. And about 4 or 5, I don't know how many seasons The Simpsons was in when Family Guy tried to do their own thing, but Family Guy tried to copy The Simpsons. And they really did things really bad. The animation was off, just like The Simpsons was in their original conception. Some of the jokes were painstakingly copied. The plot was verbatim, print by print, scene by scene, the same. And once Family Guy actually started making its own voice, actually started doing something different, they became a different show that could compare with The Simpsons. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore. I don't know how it's still on the air. I really don't. But earlier, probably seasons 6 to about seasons 15 is probably where Simpsons is great for me. Anything after that or before that, I'm not really a fan. There's some good scenes and good episodes, but seasons overall, not really a fan of. With Family Guy, I think the first season was a bit off, but again, once they found their own voice, once they created characters with their own stories, rather than trying to create a carbon copy, which again they originally did, but once they did something different, other than like, oh, hey, I'm a friend of the group, Team Avatar. Don't do that. Don't try to make a Team Avatar. Did any of the avatars before this avatar have a Team Avatar? No, I would assume they didn't, if not just had friends. You could have maybe 3 people in the group, if not 2. Maybe they start with a big family at the season 1, and then just throughout each season, you start having less and less of a family, less and less people in the group, because maybe they're going off and doing their own thing. They grow up and start to maybe have different opinions in the world. It's like, oh, wow, man, you really have to grow up in the sense of, like, people just change. So that's something that they could have addressed. Maybe starting with the entire team, and at the end of the season 1, you realize that, you know, people are just different. It's just I'm grateful to be their friend when we were younger, but we're no longer friends, and that may be a tear at the time of when Korra is trying to have a conversation with somebody in politics, and then just sees that the person in politics that she's saying like, well, I disagree with this and that or something. Her old friend is now supporting the politician she hates. And she comes up to her and it's like, no, I just disagree. It's like, well, what are you talking about? I don't think that should be canon. I'm just giving it as an example. They could have done something else. They could have given Korra its own identity, but they tried to be a carbon copy of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's hard to be a carbon copy and still make your own voice. Don't try to copy somebody else. Do your own thing, but there are still things that you have to do successfully to succeed. For example, continuity. It just in the show series itself, but also in your real world, and also in the real world, real life, personal responsibility, etc., whatever. Okay, let's move on. From the show's beginning, the Legend of Korra. While Bolin's comic relief hits a stride later in the show, particularly in season 3, he wasn't on Sokka's level. Which, again, it's one of those things of like they tried to make a comic relief rather than just having somebody who maybe had dry humor. They could have had Bolin be a dry comic relief, where kind of like Gimli in The Lord of the Rings. Gimli, he's not the comic relief, but he says he doesn't try to be funny. while they're talking about whether or not they're going to be invading beyond the gates and people will die, he's eating food, drinking beer. They turn to him and he burps. He doesn't care about the situation. He's just he's enjoying himself eating the food. He's not an overtly comic person, but because of how tense the situation is, he is sort of the comic relief. But they made Bolin, I think, too much of the comic relief. He's so not bombastic. He's flamboyant. He's over the top when they could have made him dry. Sokka at moments was a bit flamboyant when he comes to like making a joke here and there. And when he makes a joke, he would probably be the only person laughing at the joke that he made, and he was still having fun. And that was one of the things that made Sokka's jokes hilarious. Everybody hated them. They were so face palmy. They just made you cringe, but they were still enjoyable. But Bolin's character, I think, tried to be just the comic relief, rather than just having maybe moments here and there of maybe somebody who's just not as proficient as you. Again, some of the character about Bolin, they did well. I think that because he was a little bit of a non-professional, or he was so dreamy or so wishy, those are the moments that do well. So I might be criticizing nothing, because I don't know. Again, I'd have to watch the entire series for Bolin's character of being the comic relief. I think he was just painted as the comic relief to be the comic relief, rather than focusing on the main characteristics that made him, I think, awesome, which were kind of dreamy and kind of maybe a little bit more looking towards the clouds, living among the clouds, and rather on Earth, while his older brother, the one with the scarf, Mako, that was his name, with Mako being the one that's living in the real world, trying to save Bolin from everything. That storyline, I mean, it's kind of a trope, it's kind of a stereotype, but it works well, I think. It's just I think they made Bolin a little bit too much of a comic relief, and they just like kind of honed in on it rather than just saying it was part of his character. It wasn't the reason it wasn't his character. It's just something that is a characteristic about the character. It was a factor of the character. Where was I? Oh, and it wasn't on Sokka's level. And Mako, for all his cool eyebrows and clutch lightning shots, which is a big issue with the show, because again everybody could just do lightning shots apparently, instead of just like it's a very intense skill that you have to learn. You could just learn it. You could just do it. You don't have to learn it. Felt flat compared to the complexity of Prince Zuko. Yeah, Prince Zuko had a very complex situation in his life. He was the prince who was outcast from speaking up against his father. And he was banished because of it, punished with a permanent scar on his eye, on his face. That's what he says in the 3rd season. We don't get that confrontation until the 3rd season. But we get a lot of, oh my gosh, I'm pretty boy, in 1st season. It's like, oh my gosh, my parents were killed by the firebenders or something. It's like, or something. It's like, okay. You can have that, but that shouldn't be the reason. Who's the guy who had I am so blanking on the name. The guy with the straw in his, that had those hooked. I'm thinking the word hitch, but I am so off. The character in Avatar: The Last Airbender who had hooks for swords, who fought Avatar Aang, and then realized how wrong he was, or something. He felt himself to still be correct, but he wanted to start a new life by going to Ba Sing Se, and found that the Avatar was there, and that was his end, etc. It's just whatever his name was. I'm so blanking on the name. But his parents were killed. But the interesting part about that was not that his parents were killed, or not that Mako had his parents killed. It's what he did. And Mako felt very short of the complexity of Zuko, because Zuko always had to struggle, while we are told that Mako always had to struggle. It's just like, it doesn't feel like they're struggling, it seems like they're just okay with their situation. That's, I think, kind of the issue, but I might be wrong there. I agree and accept that I might be wrong in that aspect. But it feels as though Mako is just used to the pain, while Zuko always is hating the fact that he fails, but then he keeps on trying. While Mako, again, it's just, he kind of falls short of being compared to be a Prince Zuko. They, again, they try to make a carbon copy of Prince Zuko, I think, and it fell short of what Zuko was, and because of the complexity that even Mako's complexity went away, most of the story that happens is because he needs to be in the scene to make everyone else look good, because everyone else has something they want to say to Mako to make themselves look good. So Mako is always shat on. He doesn't get much screen time in comparison of like what makes him amazing. He's just there for the sake of the plot, so everyone else can continue, it seems. That's what it kind of felt like. So as the series went on, these core characters found more original territory to explore, but it took a while for them to get there. I agree. Again, like Family Guy, you start out with a carbon copy of The Simpsons, you don't go anywhere. But once you find your voice and you find that uniqueness, good job, fantastic, good job. But I think that's one big issue that they also had, is that because they needed to sum up an entire series worth in one season at a time, season 1, season 2, and then season 3 and 4 together, is that they didn't plan or leave open any possibility of growth, because they needed to develop from start to finish the entire character, and that's what kind of fell through on it. I'd like to think so, because most of the character development for Zuko doesn't happen until season 3. But watching season 1 and season 2, we get to see him struggling. In season 2, he struggles like crazy. At the end of season 2, he makes the wrong choice and feels good about it. And in season 3, he's troubled by it. It's amazing, and he tries to do right and then does right by it. Even his uncle is happy that he made the right decision and was never mad, but just sad that he thought he lost his way. And it was such a bonding moment that even if you just see the scene of Uncle Iroh hugging his freaking nephew, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Yay! And that's so late in season 3. So late in season 3, about 4 or 5 episodes before the entire series is over. And it's like, oh, it was so worth it. So worth it. Like Samurai Jack, they came out with season 6, I think, about a decade after the original series was created for seasons 1 through 5. Hopefully I have the right amount of seasons. And it's a very adult themed compared to all the other seasons put together. It's a very adult themed one where he loses his mind, etc., because he's lived for so long. That happens in the first episode, so it's not much of a spoiler. But the way they ended that series, it was so stereotypical. I guessed it before it happened, and I was still happy. I was still satisfied, because the way they did it was awesome. It was worth the time. Take your time on things, and again, it's one, I think, the reasons of why Legend of Korra fell so short is that they tried to rush rather than try to play it out. And even then, it's tough to compete with territory to explore. With them, took a while to get there, yes. And even then, it's tough to compete with the likes of Zuko, Iroh, Toph, and the rest of the original gang. I agree. Don't try to compare yourself to them. Try to create a new story. It shouldn't be Zuko, Iroh, Toph, and the rest of the gang in this new series. It should be a new series in the world. So, it also didn't help that Korra's characters mess up. Well, actually, what do you mean by that? Because what do you mean by mess up? That's a question I have. In fact, they mess up a lot. Okay? I have no issue with the fact that they mess up a lot. I personally don't. That might be one thing that I could hear criticism over, but again, I don't attribute that to being why Korra's characters, they're so stupid because they mess up. One issue that I have, for example, is when Korra is at the Avatar, the bending brawl, whatever it's called, with the 3 versus 3 benders, kind of like their own Olympic sport, pretty much, their own boxing ring, is Korra is getting out of the water at the very bottom, and I think this is before the Equalists ambush everybody. And the Badgers, or whatever they're called, at the very top get kidnapped and then taken their bending away. Well, what happens is that Korra comes out of the water because she got knocked out, and Tenzin at the very bottom has been giving her lip service for being like, you're not listening, you're destructive, you're bombastic, you are arrogant, you're ignorant. But in that moment, it's like, you know what, you choosing to go behind my back and do all the things that I said strictly not to do, and then being in this situation literally moments before the Equalists show up, and I might be wrong in that situation, I agree. I accept that being a possibility, but accept, like, you know what, Korra, you were correct the entire time. No, she wasn't. She learned how to do it only because Tenzin started getting really like right in her face, which is the style that she needed to learn, rather than just being like peace, love, harmony, let go of everything. Korra needed to learn like getting it into the face, and Tenzin shouldn't apologize at all, but he apologizes entirely to Korra, and Korra's like, thank you. It's like, what? Korra, you're a bitch. What's happening here? So I would say that's one of the reasons why the characters fall short. It's not that they mess up. I'm okay with a character messing up all 3 of the 4 seasons, like Zuko. Zuko messes up every single episode that he tries to do anything good. One of the episodes, he says, when he burns Top's feet, and says, why am I so bad at being good? He says that, and he screams it, he yells it, he literally has no idea why he's so terrible at being good. But again, it's so endearing when he finally gets it right. So I'd actually say that this is a very big issue, like, for a Screen Rant. Like, I disagree with this wholeheartedly. Messing, like, I would have accepted this article to be pretty good, pretty solid, probably a B plus or something. Well, actually, I'd probably say it's an A minus, but now it's a B plus. For maybe probably just a solid B, because this has nothing. Okay, let me read the entire paragraph, because the fact that you mess up has nothing to do with whether or not a character is good. Zuko is one of my favorite characters, and it has nothing with him being excellent at everything. If anything, it's the opposite. He goes through every single trial and tribulation. He was born of wealth, born of privilege, and still was at the bottom of the barrel, and was looked down upon, and only when he was able to fight up and actually stand up against those people who were oppressing him, his father and his sister, and the entire Fire Nation, realizing that what he was doing was incredibly wrong, being in the war that he was, being on the side of the war that he realized all of it was wrong and fought against that. That's when he became amazing. It's actually not then, but he became even more amazing. It's like you were rooting for him even though he was the villain. To be honest with yourself, that's what I did. It's like, yeah, Zuko, you can do it. Oh, you failed. Come on, get back up. Yeah, kick Avatar in the butt. Oh, I know you're gonna fail, but come on, you can do it. The original show certainly had its fair share of teachable moments for the gang. The gang. Oh man, I love that. It's funny. The gang. Aang lying to Sokka and Katara about their father's whereabouts to keep them from leaving him comes to mind. But that's not okay, I wouldn't say that's a mess up. That's actually okay. No, that is a mess up. That's just not what I thought you meant by a mess up. Yeah, that's a mess up. Yeah, you have many mess ups. Zuko failing the entire time until the 3rd season. I'd say that's pretty good. Even the very last moment in the 2nd season, Zuko continues to mess up. He did the wrong thing, but was very successful at it. Yeah. But these are usually small missteps. No, actually, that was a very big thing. Hey, you want to know where your only biological tie is to your love in life, your love, the thing that has been taken from your life right now, from the Fire Nation, is the war that took your father out of the home because he had to go and fight. And yet I'm going to hold that information from you? No, Sokka's and Katara's response to Aang's issue of what they said, of him holding that information, they were in the right. How can I trust you if this is what you did, being so fucking petty to not realizing that we're in this together, but I want to go see my father? As somebody who's a monk, if you're, I'm going to probably butcher the name, but Gyashi, his trainer, his father figure, his grandfather figure in like 100 years ago, if he was alive today and we knew where he was and we withhold that information from you, you'd act the same way. It's a good thing that he did. Like, he fucked up in the wrong way. And then Sokka and Katara realized that it's like, hey, you know what? Your father's going to still be here. And if anything, you have even if he's not, you have a bigger mission right now. You are with the last Airbender, the Avatar who needs to save everybody. You have a bigger mission than your father. And it's like, oh wow, we need to go back to our family. It's like our father and where they are and what they're doing. You know what? We'll meet them whenever we can. We have something bigger than our father at this moment. We have a mission rather than to go and see family, which again they really wanted to. I got goosebumps all of a sudden, man. That was pretty cool. Now again, I could probably say that there's a little bit of improvement there of maybe Aang. I don't know. I think it was done well. Maybe perfectly, but done well, phenomenally even. Excuse me. Burp. Okay, where are we? Let's just like sort of looking around here. Aang lying to Sokka becomes mine, but these usually are small missteps addressed by the end of the single episode. I agree. An issue happens, and at the end of the episode, and even I keep going back to Zuko. With Zuko, when he steals, not when he steals, when he plays pretend to be a homeless person, in not Ba Sing Se, but in an Earth Kingdom village, and they're brought into a household by a mother and daughter, and very lovely family, but their father, their son and brother are off fighting in the war. I think but their family's in the war and they've lost people, etc. They've been the daughter's been scarred on her foot, on her leg, horribly, and then she connects with Zuko, having been burned on the face. It's just like one of those moments of like, you don't have to sum up an issue that happens at the end of the episode, because even what messes up is that Zuko takes the ostrich bird, like their horse, and rides off after receiving a free meal from them, rest and hospitality for even the evening. And the daughter was so hopeful with Zuko that when she was watching them take the ostrich, you could see the sadness that came upon them, because their kindness was not rewarded, their kindness was shat on. And it's not resolved, nor is it ever resolved. Like, it's just something that adds to the character of like, wow, this guy's a fucking shitbag. And you realize that, well, I've made so many mistakes in my life, what can I do to atone? And he does that so well, helping the Avatar, standing up to the oppression that is his father, not the fact that he is his father, but there's actually a good father figure, Iroh. If anything, a phenomenal father figure that was just taken by the war, Sokka and Katara's father. There's so many good father figures. As for an example, the boy in the wheelchair, the inventor, the engineer. He's a good father. I mean, he messed up, but until the moment that Aang came, he showed him, it's like, well, the errors of his ways, and it's like, what can I do to make up for this? And they fought back when the Fire Lord came to collect some of the weapons that he was creating. So on and so forth, and it developed to them getting a new technology, blimps, to fight in the war. It's like one thing kept leading on to another issue. It's not that just a small misstep was like a mess up like that was resolved. If anything, it exacerbated the situation. So I don't know what screenwriter is talking about here. Okay, Korra is bullheaded and stubborn for half of the show. Agreed. Mako's constantly wishy-washy. Agreed. Tenzin obsesses over his legacy to frequent faults. Agreed, but I actually think that I think he is obsessive, like overtly obsessive. But I think he actually has a reason for why he's Korra being bullheaded and stubborn because she's the Avatar. That is a horrible thing. It's not a good thing at all, of being that arrogant. Like, yeah, let's do this because I can do it and everyone's gonna let me. That's why I think her bullheadedness and stubbornness is so insufferable. Mako is constantly wishy-washy and doesn't really develop a character even in the third and fourth season. He's just a character in the show. He's not a character. He's a guy in the show, not a character in the show. He's a guy. Tenzin, he's more of a character in the first or second season, and it's sort of like just wanes off screen on the third, fourth one. Tenzin obsesses over his legacy to frequent faults, but again, he has a good reason to, because he is the last of the Airbenders and is literally creating what he possibly can of the new Airbenders. He has a great reason for doing that. So Tenzin is insufferable, but not all the right reasons, and all the good reasons. He actually has a motivation to be like, hey, don't get yourself killed. You're one of the last Airbenders. It's like, he has a good reason for that. However, a lot of this writing, and the list goes on and on. I disagree with the Tenzin part. However, a lot of this writing is intentionally difficult, an effort to craft more flawed and complicated characters. I give an example, please. Over time, I don't know what to do with this one sentence unless they give an actual example for this. Over time, most of these issues are addressed in long-term storylines, but for a lot of fans, the payoff isn't worth it. I disagree with this whole paragraph, pretty much. Okay. This argument goes hand in hand with the last, as a lot of it focuses on the way... Oh, what was the statement here? The Legend of Korra ruins things about Avatar. I agree. This spirit battle, I am okay with a yin and yang always having a confrontation and conflict back and forth. Excuse me. But one of the biggest issues, it's kind of an issue though. It's like by introducing these two spirits, it feels retconned. It really does. That the spirit inside, it just... How do I say it? When you introduce a spirit being the thing that goes from spirit to spirit to spirit to spirit, to body to body to body after the reincarnation of the new Avatar, what happens is that the power I don't know how to describe it. Okay, that's one thing that it just feels weird, and yeah, it just feels weird. That's the one thing I just have to say. So this argument goes hand in hand with the last, as a lot of it focuses on the way the Legend of Korra changes characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender in retrospect. The most commonly cited instance of this is how Korra reveals that Aang was a pretty rotten father who often neglected his two older, non-airbending children in an obsession with Tenzin and the future of the Air Nation. I agree with that. Him being a bad father, I don't think Katara would ever let Aang let that go. Katara was a fucking amazing woman at the end of the series. I mean, she's probably like 16 or something. Still very young, but still, she grew up. She grew up much earlier in her life, so she was always that mother figure. And one thing that even Sokka brought up is that anytime that Sokka brings up the image of his mother, he only pictures his sister. Because he was too young to realize. It's just like even though Sokka was older, it's that Katara has always had that need to be the motherly figure whenever her mother was taken from her, was killed. And the father had to leave the home, so both of them had to really just stop being children for such a long time. And I don't think, in the slightest, I don't even think that Sokka would have ever allowed Aang to do that. It's like, hey Aang, I think you're neglecting your children. It's like, they're pretty close together, the entire gang. I mean, they did live their own life, but the only person that actually went off and did their own thing, leaving everyone else alone, was Toph. Toph just, yeah. In an obsession with Tenzin, who often neglected his two older Some fans have celebrated this plotline for adding complexity and nuance to Aang's character, but there's an issue there. I don't think it would have ever happened. It feels as though they wanted Aang to be a horrible, rotten father, but at the same time, he could have paid more attention to Tenzin, but he should have never neglected his two older children. again, it's like you don't have to make him perfect, but it seems as though it's like, hey, it just feels like you're shitting on an old character, and instead of respecting the old character, it's like, I don't think you would ever say the same thing. What if you said the exact same about Katara? Why would you say that about Katara? Katara was a strong person. Yes, Aang was a strong character. He was always having fun, lighthearted, would have had fun with his two children. That's the spirit of air. Just lofty, having fun. He could have had more fun with Tenzin, but to neglect his two other children? That doesn't seem like Aang at all. If anything, he had to grow up. Aang had to grow up so early in his life. He had to defeat the Fire Lord. The Fire Lord, and now the Phoenix King. He had to defeat him during the Sozin's Comet, while having to have mastered all 4 elements within an entire summer, and that has never been heard of before. And he was a very talented kid to begin with. And one big issue that I also have with is when the very first episode of the first season of Avatar Korra, the Legend of Korra, it is a legend, I don't consider it to be real, is that she is able to bend all the elements at the age of 4, except for air. And that's blocked from her for the rest of her life, for 10 to 12 years. I don't believe that. That's not a thing. No. It's like, it's never been known that you would have had to master all the 4 elements, but the reason you had to do that is because you had to learn how to do it. But apparently, Korra was just a Mary Sue, amazing at everything, gets all the powers. Yeah, because you have to deal with it. No, I really don't. It's not real. Oh, so she was even a cunt at that age. You have to deal with it. Her parents were just awful. Like, no, you're not allowed to do that. It's like, no, you don't get to do that. Well, we're just gonna let her. I think Korra's entire problem with her life, her insufferable behavior, is the fact that her parents never punished her because she's the Avatar. We can't do anything about that because we can't punish her creativity. It's like, yeah, you can. You take the toy out from her. If she starts bending fire, you have water right beside you and say no. If she uses water to do that, you just say no. You stand up. You're bigger than her. Psychologically, she'll accept that. She might be able to control fire, but it's like, oh my gosh, we just have to let her continue doing it. Let her scream it out. Let her burn the house down. As long as we don't have to dwindle her creativity, because she's the Avatar. Some fans have celebrated the plot line for adding complexity to the nuance of Aang's character and for addressing the stress he dealt with carrying the future of an entire culture. Now, I'd agree with that. But at the same time, okay, there's not a bad reason as to why he would neglect the other 2 children and focus more on Tenzin. It's just, I don't think you do the same thing with Katara. Would Katara have neglected the 2, all of them, or it's just, It's like you made him into a bad father. And that's an issue. It's like, again, with there's a trope in today's age where making a bad father is really easy to do, and it's like, oh, so amazing. Because, we're fighting against the issues that have happened. The reason that the reason that Zuko had a bad father was the fact of who his father was when Zuko was born. Avatar Aang had that innocence with him, and you fucked over his character. It doesn't mean he's innocent. He messes up a lot because he's also a kid, and as an adult, you still mess up. But he still had that essence of caring about people, caring about his friends and family. And when he got his own family, he neglected 2 of them? Go fuck yourself, show. No, that's not Aang. He can hang out with Tenzin and praise Tenzin more, but to neglect the other 2? No, go fuck yourself, show. No, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And the nuance of Aang's character for addressing the stress he dealt with his own culture, future of an entire culture. Others have criticized the choice for being out of character for Aang as he's shown in Airbender. Absolutely. Toph's portrayal in Legend of Korra is similar and has drawn similar critiques. I actually disagree because Toph kind of did it right. Because one of the things, the reason I say that is because Toph was able to. There's so many spoilers I'm giving with both Avatar: The Last Airbender and Avatar: The Legend of Korra. I didn't realize how much of spoilers I was getting into. Toph's betrayal in The Legend of Korra is similar and has drawn similar critiques. The reason I disagree with that statement is I think her character is nice. I think her two children, her two daughters, one becomes a police officer, which is the opposite. It's like skipping a generation. Toph may have been the type of person to be all spirit, like, hey, be free, do whatever you want, I don't care. And because of that freedom, her daughters needed more structure, so they naturally tended to go towards more structured professions. One was building the city of metal, and the other one was being a police officer. So I think that works because of for what I think would have happened if you were to raise your children with Toph being who Toph was. And if you could see everything because of the vibrations that you had when you were feeling the earth, being at her age and that much experience of doing it, I think it was at too extreme of a level, but at the same time, if she could see everything, why would she want to be in the city? If it's like, I'm just going to go away where people don't talk to me because I'm constantly surrounded by noise, because I can feel the earth. I think that's a legitimate claim. Other common complaints, wait, you didn't even say anything about Toph. You just said that Toph had some similar critiques. What was your example? Oh, okay, and then we'll move on. It's like, okay. It's like saying, I like it, or I don't like it. Now we move on. Why? Why? Substantiate your argument, please. Other common complaints include that Korra reveals too much specificity about the nature of the spirit world, bending, and the Avatar, and that the world itself is too altered and modernized from Avatar's more traditional low-tech fantasy, albeit with tanks and giant drills. That's not one issue that I have. That might be something, again, with certain dialogues I would disagree with, but that's not a critique that I have in the slightest. For many who fell in love with the beauty and mystique of Avatar's world, seeing it filled with biplanes and mecha tanks and learning more about the nature of things like lion turtles polluted its elegance and magic. Absolutely. It developed too quickly. You could develop the technology until the very end of the fourth season, where you start to realize that these technologies can start to be true. But within a scope of 70 years, you already have 1855 San Francisco, California technology. It's like that era. What? They go from a 12th century to an 18th, 19th century in 70 years. Where the fuck is the backlash? I don't get it. Okay. It's not even just the backlash. I don't know. It's just it does it too quickly. And even with the lion turtles, and the lion turtles themselves, it's like it does, when you're trying to explain everything from the first season, that's sort of an issue. Don't explain everything. Leave things a mystery, because when you leave things a mystery, it makes me wanting more. Again, John Wick 1, he doesn't have any lines in that movie, pretty much. But when he does talk, it's just to connect what's happening to the next thing. But what happened with him in his history? There's so many legends about John Wick that we want to know more in the second movie, and the second movie shows it. But there's still a lot of mystery. And the thing is that they keep on revealing a lot of the mysteries, and they reveal the mystery of, it's just the third movie I'm not a fan of. I'd have to go in greater detail with that. The movie sort of ends for me whenever he has to chop off his finger. I don't get that. It's like, I would understand that it's like, hey, it's some crazy underworld rules. I will accept that, but the movie ends with that right there for me. Because everything else after that does not make a lick of sense. It doesn't. For many who fell in love with the beauty and the mystique of Avatar's world... Oh yeah, I just read that. Oh, The Legend of Korra is a more ambitious show than Avatar. I don't hold it against it. It's not one of the reasons why I disagree with the show. Make no mistake, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a masterpiece, despite its flaws. But its excellence comes largely from taking a very traditional narrative structure and perfecting it. taking its time, trying to develop the characters before we move on to major roles. That's, I think, one thing that Last Airbender does well. It's a series that broke major ground for female characters in action shows. Differently abled characters. Oh my gosh, show. I want to fuck you over. I want to fucking punch you until you're differently abled. Wow. Differently abled? You mean like blind people? Disabled people who can't see? You're not differently abled. You're literally incapable of seeing. Using the word differently abled is just you making yourself feel good. It's like if you're blind, here's something that somebody changed my mind over this about not the word differently abled, but I was defending the deaf community so much in like 3 years ago that when somebody explained it to me in a comment, in one comment, the comment is summed up as this: if a person would have the option through technology to be able to hear if they were deaf, how many of them would do that if they could? Well, many of them don't because they identify as deaf. And it's how they identify, and to change that would to be changing their identity regardless of whether or not hearing can add many a wondrous things to your life. It's like you don't have any legs nor arms. Like you can have a fulfilling life like Nick Vujicic or whatever his name is. He's literally not a paraplegic, but he literally has no arms or legs, and he's a Christian and goes around and starts and speaks the praise of Christianity. He doesn't do that overtly, but at the end of his 1 hour speech, that's what he likes to get into. He goes to prisons all the time and he converts people. He really does. I've seen a video of him converting prisoners to Christianity. It was kind of interesting. And they could have done whatever they wanted to him, but they didn't. It was kind of interesting. I'm not saying that all prisoners are evil. That's stupid. But it was just kind of interesting. But if you gave Nick the option to have limbs, to have arms and legs, literally through technology of developing it, within 6 weeks, 6 months, you would have your own functioning arms. You just have for the next 6 years have to work on it, or 6 months after that, rigorous training to make your muscles good, and then maybe some trainings here and there, or some chemicals to make certain that it doesn't become cancerous and they develop to the way that they should have been. He might not want that because he might identify as a paraplegic or someone who doesn't have arms and legs. So, why would he want to? But would his life not increase tenfold, hundredfold if he could just walk, hug his children? He has 4 children. Wouldn't his life be more amazing if he could hug his children? It doesn't mean that his life isn't amazing. It's that would it be more amazing? So using the word differently abled is such a cop-out to actually pointing out truths. And people don't like to talk about truths because it makes them feel bad. And in current modern age, if you feel bad and anybody starts addressing truth, that is uncomfortable. Therefore, you're bad because you make me feel bad. And feelings are what drive most people today. That's the value. Pleasure or truth. That's pretty much the fundamentals. If it doesn't feel good, it's bad. Versus, it's incorrect to do, therefore bad. Again, which one? The moment that I started to accept that truth is what matters, regardless of whether or not you get religious with it, truth is what matters. Should you smoke cigarettes? You're allowed to. You have the right to, but doesn't make it good. You have the right to masturbate 60 times a day. It doesn't mean that it's going to be good for you psychologically and pumping that amount of the lack of testosterone that you get when you're actually trying and doing something, the amount of the reward system of going out, talking to an actual woman, and then saying, "Hey, I think you're very attractive. Would you like to go out tonight?" Just like that simple. And that to remove that ability to even have a relationship with somebody, it's like, yeah, you can do it. You can do all these things. You can do it. Go, have at it. Doesn't make it good. And if it's not good, why the fuck are you doing it? Because it makes me feel good. Okay, well, I'm not going to be responsible for you. You as an adult are responsible for the results in your life. And if you wind up single, alone, and in the basement, whose fault is that? Society. Everyone else. people down the street, politicians, the weather, the economy, the environment, everyone else but yourself. So I hate the word differently abled with a passion. I don't know if you could tell. And characters of color. I hate the word of color. It's like saying like, what would you do of non-color? Would you say characters of non-color? Because if that's the basis, because colored people are the basis, that's like saying remove the word of color and characters. What does the word color have any fucking thing to do with it? There's people and people of color. Just remember that the two are different. There's people of color and then people. I hate the term of color. It's so fucking racist. Oh, it's like saying the word nigga. It's so weird to actually use that unironically, even though you're joking. It's so weird. For no reason. Oh, there was a YouTuber who made that argument all the time from EFAP number 97, I think. 94. Either 94 or 97. I highly recommend watching the entire 9-hour critique of the... it's so funny. EFAP. Number 94 and 97 with Lord of the Rings. For no reason. That was so funny. I watched it like 3 times. That's like 27 hours. 27 hours I invested. I probably watched the whole thing again because of how hilarious the entire thing was. For no reason. Oh, it was so funny. Oh, man. Okay. And it effectively tackled hard ideas like nationalism, class. Okay, are you saying that nationalism is a bad idea? Okay, because it seems like classism, refugee crisis, and trauma while also remaining... Okay. Because, again, nationalism is a good thing. I don't know if anybody knew, but nationalism is a good thing. If not, you can leave. It's like, no. This is what the nation is. Ah, so you're defining what the nation is, and therefore we should all practice what ideal of whatever the nation should be. And it's like, okay, so we should protect that type of culture and everything. Ah, then that goes with ethnicity, where almost everyone else in the world has a certain ethnicity which they come from that they shouldn't be practicing, but the nation's culture of which you come here, you practice what is good. You have the right to life, liberty, and property. Everything else, have at it. I don't give a damn. You're an adult. You're responsible, but whatever you create is yours. But again, people today say that we have the right to riot, we have the right to kill people, we have the right to burn people as long as we get what we want. And that's what actually people in America believe. I would rather have 50,000 immigrants, first-generation immigrants, and remove fourth generation, 150,000 fourth generation, like sixth or seventh American generation children. I want them to be gone because statistically, we're going to have better Americans who practice life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That you're not owed anything. And by that, you are responsible. Thus, you have to actually go out and work. You have to be responsible for your actions. You don't get to just live in pleasure. You don't just get to live at the Capitol with the Hunger Games. You don't. You don't get to do that. And then tell everybody in the outskirts and all the other districts and say, guys, I want foods. Give me foods. It's like, we have to work for that. Can you give us some more money? I said foods. Give me foods, you peasants. Go out there and give me the foods. Spoiled children nowadays. I'm old enough to actually say that, which is kind of... It's bizarre to think that how old you are when you realize you're not really that old. It's gonna happen, guys. It's gonna happen. It's like kids these days. You're gonna say it. You are so going to say it. It's such a weird thing to say when you hear your parents say it, and then you say it. It's like, oh shit, it's actually true. Okay. By ideas like nationalism, classism, refugee crisis, and trauma, while also remaining at its core a kids show. I think it's too much of an adult-themed. I really do. It's like, because they jam-pack it filled with things that they don't have enough time to breathe. But in its form, Avatar takes very few risks. Aang and Zuko are exceptional for how they are written. How so? You're just saying how they are written, they're exceptional. You gotta explain why. You just can't say things are the way they are. Please give some substance. But the broad strokes of their journeys are still those of the hero's journey. As a villain, Ozai offers very little complexity outside of the way he is used to discuss child abuse and authoritarianism. Avatar's overarching story, while brilliantly executed, stays within a classic formula. This isn't a bad thing, rather it's one of Avatar's strengths. While The Legend of Korra, whatever the first two names are, I don't know why they're losing the last names, so difficult to use. What are their names? Like, I don't care anymore. Oh, Michael and Brian. Brian and Michael. We're at the second to last paragraph. Interesting. The big bads. While with The Legend of Korra, Brian and Michael tried for something more risky. Korra's characters are muddy and complicated, even the big bads. What do you mean by the big bads? Are muddy and complicated, even the big bads? You mean the big bad villains? Or just the big bad gay? I don't know what you're talking about. It's the big bads. It's funny. Oh man, probably gonna get a lot of hate for that statement. The heavier themes presented in the background of Airbender come to the forefront in Korra, while active discussions of representation. I hate representation. The word is just like the word misogyny. I just shut off when anybody says that. It's like, shut up about your fucking race. That's how we get over racism. Shut up about your fucking age. What do you have to present and why should I care? That's it. That's all that matters. That really is. I can go through any and all of a person's. I can tell how you vote. I can tell how you think. I can tell what your values are. If you value race, regardless of whether or not you think that people are being oppressed in 2020, if you think that in America, wow, go fuck yourself. Just no. Industrialization, okay. Capitalism, okay. Class, parenthood, corruption, PTSD, and a lot more. It's not really discussions, rather than the show just tells us these things. Capitalism is bad. Parenthood is bad, except for Katara. Corruption, PTSD, and a lot more. These ideas are present in Avatar, but they're explored further in Korra. Actually, capitalism, industrialization, representation, class, if any, no, that's actually represented a little bit more, but parenthood, sorta, PTSD, sort of. I mean, the only moment is with Zuko that I can think of. Zuko, is having that evolution, but it's not really PTSD. If anything, again, you're not. One of the biggest issues is that Korra is trying to share all these active discussions rather than trying to tell a story that would be correct in that world. And then we'll care about the characters regardless of whatever their representation is. It's one big issue that they're trying to tell a message. They're trying to share a message rather than trying to tell a story. That's one thing that gets in the way of these modern bullshit stories. Again, you can have a lot of great things, but then, well, let's hit the gosh. These ideas are present in Avatar, but they're explored further in Korra through a larger cast of older characters. Yes, the original characters that you cared about. That's one thing that I even have a criticism with Korra, is that hey, look, a character that you loved. Hey, here's our own stuff. It's like, well, I don't like the old stuff, but I like the new stuff. And they keep trying to introduce new characters, which I'm grateful that they do to the best of their ability, but it's more of like, hey, dangling the keys, here's the new stuff. Dangling the keys, old stuff, here's the new stuff. And when I watched the entire series the first time through, I never had any of these thoughts until I started to break down, well, wait a second. Oh. And even, like, hearing some other people's point of views as to, like, why they disagreed with this and that, and I look back on it and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's like dangling of the keys, and then, well, actually, I think that's my own analogy, but analogy from another movie, from another person. So it's like dangling of the keys makes it look really amazing. Oh my gosh, characters that I love. And then they introduce whatever thing after that, and then I'm more susceptible to accept whatever they just presented, regardless of whether or not it was good. It's a psychological thing. It really, here's some. It's like it's like the Lion King from Disney remake. It's like, hey guys, it's everything that you love about the show. Also, we're retconning some of the characters, and they're gonna have discussions that are so. I think they of what they did. There's one scene where it was Lana, whatever the lioness's the main lioness's character. She is having a discussion with the Whoopi Goldberg's hyena character, and they're talking about like feminism or something. It's so fucking bullshit. It's like, hey guys, it looks amazing. Old stuff you like, and now here's the bullshit that we're gonna try to shove into your face because gotta do that representation. Bullshit, man. Just one thing that I want them to do is just to not change. The main character, Michael and Brian, are going to retcon the lion turtle scene. I think that, or if not the lion turtle thing, they're gonna be adding some LGBTQ representation. They're gonna be adding characters, and it's like, why? Why not just make a live action or even a 3D modeled, 3D animated version of the Avatar: The Last Airbender? You know how much fucking money I would throw at that? But if you're gonna be retconning some things, it's just it's a fan fiction. It's not the original, it's not the actual thing. They try to retcon it, they try to change it because modern sensibilities. And go fuck your modern sensibilities. Because in 10 to 20 years, people will be upset that you ate meat. It's like, okay, it's not human. Oh. And it's like, there's so much of a discussion that can be had from even that. Yeah, people are going to be pissed off from you 10 to 20, 30 years later. Doesn't make them right. It might make them privileged and oversensitized to things that fucking don't matter. Don't fucking matter, man. Yeah. Unfortunately, not all of it works. I'd agree with you on that one. The show tries to handle a massive amount in even less time than Avatar: The Last Airbender. Had 52 episodes instead of 61. Really? Oh, wow. Wait, Korra had less episodes? I did not realize. And I want to be certain. The show tries to handle a massive amount in less time than Avatar: The Last Airbender had. 52 episodes instead of 61. Wow. And they even had even more content, or more major things happening. Ah, man, no wonder it felt rushed. And while moments like Korra's Season 4 recovery arc and Season 1's infamous boat scene hit hard and effectively, which I thought that the boat scene in Season 1 was absolutely amazing. I just think that them getting to that point was so rushed. Not that I disliked it, I actually love it. It's just it felt rushed. Like, again, after the first time that you watch it, it was like, it doesn't give you time to think. It doesn't give you time to breathe. It's just next scene, next scene, next scene, next scene. Boom. Sorry for anybody of those headphone users. So I didn't mean to pop those eardrums of yours. And while moments like Korra's Season 4 recovery, a fair amount of what the show tries to do is either rushed for lack of time, undercut by other plot lines, or just left a little wanting in its execution. Agreed. There is inherent merit in The Legend of Korra's attempt to cover so much ground. I don't care if it tries. It's like, you can have my respect for doing so. It doesn't make it good. I'm not going to praise it for doing something bad. I'll give you props for doing it, for trying. But again, at the same time, you can try to take care of my child as a babysitter. You better not fuck up. If not, like, I'll give you props for trying, but you stabbing my child in the throat and he bled and died, it's like, I don't care how much of an attempt you tried. I think there's one thing, and I think I've been doing it for a long time as well, that there's an attempt to try to make Korra, and we should praise them for that. No! I for the longest time have given that, like, they tried, it's not the same. But wait a second, if somebody is like, I'm sorry that we didn't do it correctly, it's like, yeah, you tried, but again, at the end of the day, you didn't do it right. You fucked it over. You retconned a lot of the situations. If to me, it's just official fan fiction. Official fan fiction. That's all Avatar of Korra is. And by looking at it through that lens, I can appreciate it. I can say like, oh yeah, okay, I like this moment. I like that moment. That's interesting for someone to think that that's the way that it should go. Okay, I can respect that. It's not the original. It's official fan fiction, and the live action Avatar. I was for probably a whole year when that first was announced. I've been looking forward to it. And then within this week, I saw an article of them saying, of Michael and Brian, the creators of the show, are saying that they're going to retcon a few things and try to make it more LGBT friendly. And again, it's one of the reasons why I hate LGBTQ. They try to retcon things rather than try to create their own. I like, with all of its faults, Steven Universe. Everyone in that show is gay. And I don't fucking care. The story is amazing. I think what they do with some of the episodes and scenes are just, they could have done so much better. But, man, I'm so blanking on the name. Not Asmith? Asmith? Yeah, the fat, sloppy one. Short, fat, sloppy one. Her story arc, her background, that teared me up a little bit, actually. It's like, oh my gosh. But then Steven Universe's character changes for whatever the plot needs to happen. There's a lot of things that they do horrible in that, but again, it's the first. So okay. I disagree with a lot that happened, but they try to make their own. I give them props for making them their own. They didn't change anything. If anything, the creator of the show did things poorly in some episodes, in some of the seasons, but again, it's one of those things of like it's its own thing. But again, LGBTQ trying to fit itself in to an old series would be like, hey guys, we need more gay people. To me, that's the same thing as saying, oh my gosh, we need more straight people in the show. It's like, okay, why do you fucking care about that? I'm upset that you care about it and you're going to try to change the show for the sake of you wanting gay or straight characters in it. It's absolutely ridiculous to me for you to value that. Like, I'm upset that you value that. I don't care if you're gay or straight, but the fact that you want more gayness in it is like somebody saying like, hey, we need more straight people in this show. It's too gay. Because anytime that you say, like, we need more gay representation, it's like saying, oh my gosh, it's too straight. It's like, go fuck yourself. It's the same thing both ways. That's how I see it. If anything, it's the most fair way of looking at it, because I'm treating you both the same. Stop fucking valuing bad shit. That's the best way I can put it. Oh my gosh. Again, it's because, I know it's not the LGBTQ's decision for that, but it's fucking horrible to value that. It's like, we don't have enough representation. Okay, so you identify with gay people because they're your kind. That's like me saying, we agree or disagree. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're adding me to the group because I'm straight? Yeah, we agree or disagree. No, I can agree and disagree differently. Just because I have a certain sexual orientation doesn't fucking mean I have to believe what you believe in. The LGBTQ, BLM, SJW, Antifa, leftism, modern day liberalism is a fucking bane to society because of that bullshit. White supremacy, the alt-right, are the exact same thing to me. Exact same thing as LGBT, exact same thing as BLM, because they value race so fucking much. They value immutable characteristics so fucking much. It's such a bother. Tell a good story. Oh, I didn't realize there's so many black people in the show. It's like, that's what people should see. It's like they're enjoying the show, and then somebody, like, The Witcher. The Witcher's a great example. I thought The Witcher did probably like 50%, I'd probably say like 75 to 80% great and good, to 20% to horribly bad, and could have done a lot better. Maybe 75% to be a bit more fair. But at the end of me watching it for a third time, if not a fourth, I then found out that it was created by a woman. It's It's like, oh, okay. Okay. Just moving on. It's like, I'm done. Like, okay. Then I started, I don't know if I did that, like I'm looking forward to season 2, but from what I heard, it's going to be woke. And that sucks. It's like, there's a lot of flaws in the first season, but I don't fault it, because that's your baseline. How can you expand upon it? How can you become better at it? There was an article that I read where the fact that there was a rape in a story, Sword Art Online, after Kirito got out of the first game and then he went back into the second, which is absolutely absurd to me. Sort of, again, that's a flaw. Like, he was just so ready to get back in, but it was just like, okay, like, oh, it wasn't a traumatic experience or anything. And he's, oh, okay, let's do another game. But he was to go save his wife, and wife was trapped. And at the very end, spoiler warning, a spoiler alert. At the end of season 1, I don't know if it's season 1, but Sword Art Online, the second main villain, the actual villain, not just the main, not the Elf King. Let's just call him that, because there's so many things I could say about both the creator of Sword Art Online and the fairy world. The Fairy King, he starts to legitimately molest and sexually assault, and eventually would have raped if it was to continue, on screen right in front of Kirito while he was pinned down watching that. Guess what? It was amazing when he got killed, sliced in twain, and then beheaded. It was fun! It was like, yay! Fuck you, Elf King! I was like, yeah, he won! He saved the princess! Literally saved his his queen. And it's like, he saved his queen. He saved his wife. Yeah, that guy's a man. I want to give that guy's got some fucking balls on him. Man, I wouldn't be ashamed of being cucked by Kirito. He wouldn't do it, which is one of the things why I can say that so effortlessly. But I wouldn't mind being cucked by Kirito. He's a fucking man. He really is, man. He is awesome. He's just badass. But one thing is that in the article said that the fact that there was a sexual assault happening was a misogynistic patriarchal trope or something. It's just like you're practicing sexism because of that. It's like, men do that. And he fought against it, and he won, and everyone cheered, and you're bothered by that. It's I would say it's the exact same thing, relatively, and I'll concede on this, is that there's a lot of LGBT representation that may need to happen. I'm not denying that. But the fact that it's being constantly used, like sexual assault in a movie or in a show, is that it's like, at the same time, the activity, it's not actually the same activity at all. No, I was trying to concede as much as possible, but it's not. The fact that there's a sexual assault doesn't mean that men are happy about that. It's the same thing of like a man killing a man. You don't call that a patriarchal thing, do you? No, but if it's against a woman, you could do it to a man. You can sexually assault and rape a man. That's not sexist. That's not sexism. It's just bad. But if you do it against a woman, that's uber bad. That's ultra bad. That's sexism bad. It's like, okay, it's a bad thing, and we're going against it. Like, we're rooting for the hero to fucking split him in twain. It's even worse than that, because he actually turns on all the pain receptors because they're all in a digital world. He accesses the main character Kirito accesses the mainframe because he uses the cheat code because he realizes what the original password was, because the entire fairy world was based off Sword Art Online, and so he accessed it, locked the Fairy King out, gave him no powers, couldn't log out, and he put on the pain receptors for the Fairy King, so when he grabbed his sword and gave him the legendary most badass weapon in the game, he picked up his sword, and the Fairy King tried to fight, but it was so pathetic, and you realize how much of a pathetic man would rape and sexually assault somebody. Wow, that's amazing, something that we can all get on board. But the fact that there was a sexual assault, Kirito was so sexist. It's like, go fuck yourself, you fucking SJW feminist bullshitter. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, infamous boasting, I was trying to cure. Where were we in this? Okay, there is an inherent merit to the Legend of Korra to attempt to cover so much ground, but it's ultimately a much messier show for us. For many fans, that messiness made it an unworthy successor to the incredibly tight and cleanly told story of Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know, I'd give this entire article, like a 7 out of 10. It's like, you pretty, like, I would have probably gone with like a 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10, but then the moment you started talking about, like, Toph's portrayal, and then, like, some areas you didn't give any explanations. One thing that I disagree with any article is that you use gigantic wallpaper to cover up, oh, look at how much we have written. Hey, look, Avatar stuff. It's like, okay, you haven't said anything. Right, let me say that again. There was another article that literally said nothing and just gave it an opinion, and then based their arguments off of their opinion without giving any substantial arguments. This entire article is probably an 8 out of 10. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Because they at least substantiate some of their arguments. I disagree with like 3 or 4 of their major key points. Wait, Joey was the only Friends reunion that mattered, and it sucked? Oh, there was a Friends reunion. I didn't care about that. It's like, I don't like reunions because it's awkward. Because it's like Avatar Korra, so to speak. It's that I don't want to give it a chance until maybe a year or 2 after, because I want to see what other people think and feel about it before I invest any of my emotional time and see if it actually retcons or changes the entire thing of before. Like, if anything, it's a tribute, and if it's a tribute, it doesn't really add to it, and I'm sort of moved on to new other things. It's just what I've done, so... Okay, well... Why Legend of Korra is... Oh, I saw this one. Oh, no, I didn't. I saw why bending is better in Legend of Korra than The Last Avatar. Oh my gosh, The Legend of Korra is better than Avatar: The Last Airbender? Oh, go fuck yourself, show. No, Laura. She must be an SJW. Just, again, woman, feminist, I'm assuming. Legend of Korra was not better than Avatar. It wasn't. They did a lot of things great. A lot of flashy stuff, yes. But it wasn't better, just the fact that it happened. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I want to cover this. I don't want to. Oh my gosh. I'm so tired of doing this stuff. Oh my gosh. Like, there's so much wrong opinions out there. Wherever, like, there's so much time there's only so much time in my day for me to cover wrong opinions. Oh, okay. And if anybody out there actually agrees, believes that no opinion is wrong, Hitler, boom, shut up. It's like, dude, you're just dumb, stupid, and retarded trying to defend a retarded ideology. Everyone's the same. No, they're not, bitch. It's like, Legend of Korra is better than Last Airbender. Bullshit. It's like, there can be greater moments. I'd absolutely agree and defend that. There are better moments. But it does not mean that it is better. For example, the animation. The fight sequences. Some of them are substantially better in the Legend of Korra. Some of them are. At least for me, I like those tastes. I like that type of action style. I think there was more painstaking attention to some of the fighting itself. One great example is when, I know that Ty Lee does it to everybody in the Avatar gang in Avatar: The Last Airbender, but with one of the equalists, if not 2 of the equalists, I think it's just 1, takes down the Avatar and does so many tricks and shit, and just punches in all of the chi blocking points for the Avatar to become unable. And then they win, they move on. I mean, again, some of the animation, they do well. It's not, like, substantially better. Like, tenfold. It's probably, like, 1.1, 1.2 times better. But still better. Like it's just better. But, again, it doesn't mean that the entire Legend of Korra, it's like, no. Okay, we'll probably cover this at some other time. I don't know. We'll get... because tomorrow I'm gonna be packing and traveling to go see family. So, yeah. So whenever I'm posting this, I'll probably post this today and then keep and push everything else off a little bit. But yeah. With that being said, thank you very much for being a part of this. My name is Fable Narrative, and wait, no, that's the intro. I'm so tired. Thank you very much for being a part of this. Please post your comments, questions, and concerns right down below because I want to hear from you. Please smash that like and subscribe button because that would greatly help this channel out. And most importantly, please go out and do wonders. Thank you very much for being a part of this, and I'll see you next time. Beep.